Hey there, welcome back to Press Start Living. Please press that like and subscribe button for more great insights into Asia and life. We are dedicated to bringing you topical issues and fascinating peeks into Asian culture and happenings. Today, we have studied what philosopher Sam Harris has described the self is an illusion, and want to propose some counter-arguments for the salient points within his position. Let's dive straight into the fascinating topic of whether the self is an illusion, as proposed by Sam Harris. Spoiler alert, I'm here to play devil's advocate and offer some compelling counterpoints that suggest the self isn't just a figment of our imagination. Now, imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop. You order your usual, the barista greets you by name, and you settle into that cozy corner spot. This routine, your choices, and even that little sigh of relief as you sip your coffee, aren't they all reflections of what you call yourself? How can we say that this self, which makes decisions, enjoys specific things, and interacts with the world in a personalized way, doesn't actually exist? Let's consider the psychological and functional importance of this so-called self. It's like the author of your life story. Without this self, how would we maintain any continuity in our experiences? Think about it. Would your memories mean as much if they didn't happen to you? And when it comes to responsibility, both moral and social, aren't these concepts grounded in the belief that we are continuous selves making decisions that have real consequences? Imagine playing a game of Monopoly without keeping track of who owns what property. It would be chaos, wouldn't it? Similarly, without a sense of self, our social structures would struggle to maintain coherence. Speaking of structure, let's talk about the brain. Modern neuroscience hasn't been sitting this debate out. Take the Integrated Information Theory, or IIT for short. This theory suggests that consciousness itself stems from the way information is woven together across various brain networks. If our brain integrates this information in such a complex way, producing what we experience as consciousness, doesn't it make sense to think there's a conductor to this magnificent orchestra? And yes, this conductor is what we refer to as the self. Now let's get a bit more scientific. Studies have pinpointed areas like the prefrontal cortex as crucial in self-referential processing. This is the part of your brain that lights up like a Christmas tree when you're thinking about yourself, planning your future, or daydreaming about your next vacation. Why would our brains have such areas so dedicated to processing information about ourselves if the self were truly just an illusion? But let's not get too carried away. I can hear the meditation enthusiasts and philosophers gearing up with their counter-arguments. Yes, meditation can lead to experiences where the boundaries of the self seem to dissolve. But isn't it fascinating that most people emerge from meditation still feeling like individuals who have had a profound experience? Maybe these experiences don't show that the self is an illusion, but rather that it's more flexible and multidimensional than we often appreciate. And what about the times when you feel most alive? Those moments when you're laughing with friends, facing a challenge, or helping someone in need. Aren't these moments when your sense of self is most vivid? It's hard to argue that the self is an illusion when it's the very thing cheering at your victories and learning from your mistakes. So before we dismiss the self as a mere illusion, let's give credit where it's due. Our sense of self is not only a key player in how we interact with the world, but also central to our understanding of consciousness and personal identity. It's like the GPS system guiding you through the complex roadmap of life. Not always perfect, sometimes taking you on an unexpected detour, but always aiming to get you to your destination. In the end, whether you lean towards believing the self is an illusion or see it as a fundamental aspect of human existence, perhaps what's most important is that this debate encourages us to reflect more deeply on what it means to be me. Moving on to the intriguing world of meditation, you'd be surprised how it ties into our debate about the self. Have you ever tried meditation? If you have, you might know that no two meditation sessions are the same. Some people report feeling a deep sense of unity with the universe, while others might just be planning their grocery list or wondering why they can't stop thinking about the latest TV show. This variability in experiences is a key point. If meditation universally led to the experience of selflessness, then we might have a stronger case for the self being an illusion. But it doesn't, does it? People experience meditation in profoundly different ways, which suggests that the presence of the self is not so easily dissolved. And then there's the curious case of the observer. Even in deep meditation, many report the sensation of an observer or a witness. This observer seems to hang back, watching the parade of thoughts and sensations go by. Now, if we were truly devoid of self, who is this observer? Could it be that this observer is the self in a more subtle form, not attached to the usual identifiers like job, age, or even favorite ice cream flavor? Let's pivot to some heavy hitters in the world of philosophy. Ever heard of a guy named Descartes? He famously said, "I think, therefore I am." What he meant was that the very act of thinking is proof of his existence as a self-aware entity. Then there's Immanuel Kant, who argued that having a self is central to our experience of the world. According to Kant, without a self, we wouldn't be able to process or organize our experiences in any coherent way. It's like trying to do a jigsaw puzzle without having the picture on the box. Where would you even begin? And while we're discussing philosophy, let's not overlook the Eastern perspectives, particularly the Buddhist concept of non-self. This might seem like a direct contradiction to what we've been talking about, right? But here's an interesting twist. The doctrine of non-self isn't necessarily saying there is no self. Instead, it challenges the idea of a permanent, unchanging self. It's about recognizing that what we often cling to, our possessions, our titles, our relationships, can lead to suffering because these are not permanent fixtures. Buddhism teaches detachment from these impermanent aspects, which can be seen not as negating the self, but as refining our understanding of it. Think of it as decluttering your house. It doesn't mean you no longer have a house, but rather that your house is less cluttered with unnecessary stuff. Now, these philosophical viewpoints don't just float in the ether of abstract thought. They have real, tangible implications for how we live our lives. If there's no self, who is responsible for our actions? If there's no self, who is the one making choices about career, relationships, or ethical dilemmas? The concept of the self is crucial because it underpins our entire framework of personal responsibility and morality. Without it, the legal system, personal relationships, and moral judgments would crumble like a cookie without milk. So, where does all this leave us? It seems that while the self may not be a solid, unchanging fortress, it's certainly not an illusion either. It's more like a river, constantly flowing, changing and renewing, but always there. Whether you're meditating, pondering philosophy, or just living your everyday life, the self is your companion, your observer, and yes, sometimes even your critic. If you're as excited as I am about unlocking the secrets of your subconscious, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Press Start Living for more mind-blowing content. Press Start Living is your window to the daily Asian life rhythms and rich cultural tapestry that make this Asian continent an endless source of fascination and wonder. But we also delve into the fascinating side of life, related to the subconscious, philosophy, and living life to the fullest in all natural ways. Natural highs are the only highs you will get on this channel. Let's delve into why acknowledging the self isn't just a philosophical indulgence, but a practical necessity, especially when it comes to ethics and personal responsibility. Imagine you're at a supermarket and you see someone accidentally drop a 20 bill from their pocket. Now, if there's no self, who is responsible for deciding whether to pocket the money or return it? This scenario illustrates why a coherent sense of self is not just useful, but crucial. It's about accountability. When we recognize ourselves as consistent entities, we can be held accountable for our actions, and we can hold others accountable too. This is the bedrock of ethical behavior, isn't it? Moving on to our mental health, have you ever thought about what keeps us stable in the face of life's ups and downs? A well-integrated self is like the keel of a ship, keeping us upright even when the emotional seas get choppy. It's this stable sense of who we are that helps us navigate through personal crises, failures, and even the everyday stress of life. Without a coherent self, we might feel perpetually lost at sea, unable to find our way back to shore when adversity hits. Consider someone recovering from a personal setback. Isn't it their sense of self that they rely on to rebuild and move forward? This self isn't just a bystander, it's an active participant in our psychological resilience. Addressing critiques, it's true that the self is complex and multifaceted. Some might say it's too messy to be real. But isn't life itself complex and multifaceted? Just because something is complex doesn't mean it's not real. Think about cities, complex systems of roads, neighborhoods, and services that somehow function coherently. Similarly, our self might be a bustling metropolis of thoughts, feelings, experiences, and memories, but it's nonetheless real and functioning. Every day, we navigate through social interactions, make decisions that align with our goals, and reflect on our past experiences, all activities that signal a coherent self. In balancing views, it's helpful to think of the self as both a construct and a real experience. This doesn't diminish its importance. Rather, it enriches our understanding. Like a novel, the self can be seen as a narrative we create, yet it influences every decision we make, every relationship we cherish, and every goal we pursue. This dual perspective allows us to appreciate the contributions of both objective neuroscience and subjective experience. Ultimately, embracing the self as both a construct and a real experience provides a more balanced, holistic view. It's like acknowledging that while the internet is a complex network of data and servers, it's also a real part of our daily lives, shaping how we work, play, and connect with others. So, as we go about our day, making choices, forming relationships, and facing challenges, let's remember that the self is not just a theoretical concept, but a practical, integral part of our human experience. How's that for keeping it real? That brings us to the end of this video. Please stay tuned and keep exploring. Catch you in the next video. This is Press Start Living, your one-stop place for all things Asian with insights for all areas of life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome content. Before you go off to discuss with your friends, make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell on so you won't miss our next journey into the mind. There's a whole world inside your head just waiting to be explored. Let's discover it together.